Welcome to Blind Level Tech. This isn't just accessible tech talk. This is technology on a whole new level. We're showing you just how possible it is to live the life you want.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blind Level Tech. I am your host, Evan Starnes. And this week we are joined yet again by Pall Martz because this is part 2 where we're going to talk more about some of the everyday tech that Paul uses and also his experience as, well, number one, a software developer and also a server admin. And hopefully this might actually answer some questions that I myself as a geek have had. So Paul, welcome back to the show, and it's good to have you back here, and I'm excited to talk tech as always. It's fun.
Hey, Evan, thanks for having me back for part 2, and I hope we have as much fun now that we're recording as we were having in the banter 2 minutes ago.
Right. Because yes, it is. If it isn't obvious, we do like to do two-parters, but why would we do that 1 week and then the next week? It's just bang them out in one day, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Well, I first like to start out with what do you use? Just what's your daily tech? You're an Apple user, so.
Right. So, I'm because I worked for 30 years as a computer programmer, I'm never really afraid to dive into tech and kind of figure it out and figure out how it can help me out. So I have a M4 Mac Mini.
Nice.
Is my main computer. I do have a monitor that I never turn on except when I need help with an inaccessible web page from my beautiful sighted wife, Dee. So M4 Mac Mini is the main thing that I'm sitting at working on most of the time. I also have the iPhone 16. I have the base model iPhone 16. I have a Logitech, is it K380, I believe, keyboard?
Oh my gosh,
Bluetooth
yeah, I love those keyboards.
Yep, it's a lovely keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
I have the HumanWare BI40X, Brilliant BI40X.
Yep, Brilliant BI40X. That one has speech now, too.
Very, very nice. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the Meta Ray-Bans, and I have the AirPods Pro 2, which replaced my Aftershocks bone conducting, which I still have, but I don't use them anymore.
Nice.
So that's kind of my primary tech that I use. And when I'm sitting down at my Mac to do my writing, normally I'm going to be in the Scrivener app, which is a word processor designed for long form. It works quite well with VoiceOver on the Mac. I understand that it is not accessible at all on Windows. Unfortunately, due to some degradation in functionality on the Mac, Scrivener seems to be becoming more and more challenging to use. So I'm actually thinking about finally breaking down and getting myself a Windows 11 laptop. It's been 10 years since I used a Windows computer, so I'm going to have to kind of retransition back to that. But I know that Microsoft Word on Windows works great with either JAWS or NVDA. I can get to all the features, all the track changes and comments, all of those advanced editing features that I need to use as a writer. So I'll be able to kind of swap back and forth between Scrivener and MS Word on the Windows laptop and hopefully remain productive in spite of whatever accessibility issues crop up.
Absolutely. And right now, Word is one of those things that they have a version of it, but you can still run it as a native program. It's not an Electron web app thing that they're trying to do with every other program that they have. So that should definitely serve you pretty well. Have you tried Pages too? because that's what I used that in college, Apple Pages.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just quickly say, if I can get a standalone copy of MS Word that's not a subscription service and not giving me an update every few weeks or months, then that would be my preference. So Apple Pages, I have used that on the Mac. It does allow me to get to track changes and comments, which is a plus. Sometimes I will use it in conjunction with Google Docs, which is another word processor I use on the Macs. Using Google Chrome as my browser, go into Google Drive and do some word processing in Google Docs. I find that it's very useful to be able to use Pages to read through the document, find something that I want to edit or modify or mark up, and then go into Gox, go into Google Docs and add the markups and the edits and the track changes there, the suggested edits there in Google Docs.
Gotcha.
So kind of as a like a double duo, the two of them can't be beat. So
Gotcha. And I'd initially thought that program that you and you just said it like 3-4 times.
Scrivener.
I originally thought that was actually like an environment for coding, but it sounds more like a word processor app. I think I was thinking more like things like Notepad++ or whatever. But when did you actually first get into software engineering, and like what did you start out with at first? We're going to go way back now.
Oh yeah. So you want post-college, my career?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay,
all of it.
Great. So in college, University of Michigan, I started out with the idea of getting a computer science degree. I actually attended my first year at Michigan Tech University, which was an engineering college, and then transferred to U of M after my freshman year, and decided that computer science was not for me. I just had too many other interests. So I ended up getting a general studies degree with a large concentration in CS, but I also took math, English, philosophy, linguistics, arts, and music to kind of round out that general studies degree, still knowing all the time that once I graduated, I was going to work as a computer programmer. So when I entered the workforce, I was doing some work at University of Michigan as my first job out of college. I was what they called a programmer consultant, writing code that ran on the U of M mainframe computer, IBM 370 or 3090 or whatever the heck alphanumeric gobbledygook it was. And at the same time providing consulting services to U of M faculty, students, and staff. So any aspect of the university's computing environment they needed help with, from mag tapes to running SPSF, I was there to help them out at SPSS, whatever the statistics program is called.
Mm-hmm.
That first job was a little bit tough because landing that first job in the interview, they looked at my transcript and said, general studies degree. We need someone who can program. And I had to kind of convince them, point to the CS classes I'd taken and say, yeah, I can program. And once I had one job under my belt, the other jobs followed. I worked for a small startup in Boulder, Colorado in 1989. I moved to work at a mid-sized computer manufacturer in Salt Lake City called Evans & Sutherland for the first half of the 90s.
Hey, nice.
All right. For the second half of the 90s, it was Hewlett-Packard in Fort Collins. In the early 2000s, it was back to Boulder for another startup. I worked for a startup for a good 6 years. Finally, around 2006, I decided to go self-employed. And the thing that allowed me to go self-employed was that I had written a couple of books on computer programming. And that bought me a lot of credibility. Once the books were out, that was better than any business card as far as getting people to contact me and want to hire me for work. So I had multiple contracts and clients for a number of years, eventually whittled them all down to one very large client, which was Iowa State University's engineering department had hired me almost as a full-time programmer on a contract basis. And I worked with them until 2014. Which is when the contract ran out. And I kind of eased into the technical writing. First of all, it was the internet was kind of a new thing in the 90s. Yep. And FAQs were becoming a new thing as well. And so I started putting together programming FAQs in the 90s. And that led to me writing book reviews of programming books. I had a few of those published in the old Dr. Dobbs Journal print magazine. And then I was reviewing a book on OpenGL for Addison Wesley Press, and they came back to me and said, we want to be the publisher of all books related to OpenGL. OpenGL is a 3D graphics rendering API for people who don't know.
Gotcha.
And so we're looking to build our catalog of OpenGL books any way we can. Paul, would you like to write a book for us? Yes, I think I can contribute to that. And that was kind of my first published programming book.
Well, that's awesome. Now, transitioning more to your volunteering with, what was Audio Information Network of Colorado now, Aftersight. What did you do here as a volunteer on the tech team? You got to work with Curtis and kind of in the old days.
I did. Yeah, Curtis Willoughby. Thanks for saying his last name because I'd forgotten it. Hi, Curtis, if you're listening.
Yes.
And Ryan Osentowski was the program director, I believe, at the time.
Yep. Just met up with him
so I had lost my last contract with Iowa State. I did a little bit of accessibility training around the Denver metro area with Joseph Wheaton, Techie Joe. And that lasted for about a year before it was just so much travel and so much beginner level stuff that I burned out really quickly. So I did that for about a year. And then I started wondering if I could find some volunteer work to do where I could still use my IT skills. And I managed to get a foot in the door at AIN. And they had a complex network of Linux computers at the time that handled all of the recordings, did a little bit of automated editing and automated reformatting, and then started broadcasting them out to their various ways that they distributed their Audible media. And what I was doing initially was learning the entire process of how these computers work together. So I was reviewing the scripts that managed all of those computers, learning about the different application audio tools that were used to work with the audio files, basically figuring out how all the pieces of the puzzle work together. And I was documenting it so that when someone came along after me, they wouldn't have to repeat the same thing that I was doing. So it was a lot of learning, poking, prodding, and documenting was basically what I did. Wow. And I did that for about a year. And it was very educational. After having worked with Unix and HPUX and VAX VMS in my early days of programming, I had mostly transitioned to working with Windows and Macs towards the end of my career. And now as a volunteer for AIN, I had an opportunity to relearn that kind of StarNix ecosystem and how it had evolved since I had last plugged away. And yet it was still strangely familiar. I could open up that terminal window and type ls to get a list of files. And the VI editor was still there. You know, in so many ways, yes. Nothing had changed at all. It was refreshing and educational. And I found that the Linux distributions now came with a million software tools so that you could take an old PC that was maybe getting a little long in the tooth, install for free Linux on it, and then any piece of software like Motion and hook up a webcam, and now you've got your own motion capture system. Or Apache 2, and suddenly you're running your own web server. And what else did I put on? I was running an IRC Internet Relay chat room at one point for people to discuss RP. So there was just so many things you could do with a Linux box. The possibilities seemed endless. So I really valued my experience at AIN.
That's amazing. A couple of things. First of all, up until literally this recording, I actually did not know Techie Joe's last name. I've always known him as Techie Joe, so that was a cool little piece of trivia for me. Second of all, thank you for your documentation. I this whole time thought Curtis had documented all of this, but we have you to thank for the documentation of our old WireReady system, which is...
I don't know how much of it he did and how much I did, but yeah, you're welcome.
Either way. I should say your documents are still, I have back, probably an old it's an old Seagate external drive with old WireReady documentation on it and stuff. So those documents are still hovering around here somewhere in the office. So
that's neat. You know, the fact that Curtis kept all those machines going and working together in sync is pretty amazing, because when you get multi-process, multi-threaded systems running around, each doing different things and locking and blocking, it can be a real headache.
Yep.
So hats off to Curtis.
Big time. And he also did like stuff for the Colorado Center for the Blind. He did their original paging intercom system and some of their other tech stuff. So yeah, he's really technical and been very influential for me as a geek. You had originally mentioned actually that you have a pair, and I do too, of AirPods Pro 2nd generation. And this is actually a question I've been wanting to have an answer to, or at least some sort of intel on, going way back to an episode when I was hosting with Kelvin Crosby that we'd made on the AirPods and their ability to function as hearing aids. And really what I'd like to know is, how have the AirPods served compared to your Costco hearing aids? How have they supplemented, and how is your experience?
If you compare the price, I think the Costco hearing aids were $1,800 and the AirPods Pro 2 were $250 when they came out, and I understand you can get them now on sale for what, $180?
$180 sometimes. They've been perpetually on sale.
Yeah. When you look at that price difference, the AirPods Pro 2 are just amazing performance, incredible. Oh, yeah. First of all, they're outstanding Bluetooth headset with amazing quality.
They do.
That beats the hearing aids hands down. As far as boosting the high-end frequencies, which is what I need, they do a great job. They sound a little different than hearing aids because these are in the ears, and they 100% block the canal. So any ambient sound that you're hearing around you is being transmitted through the microphone into the speaker, into your ear, rather than the hearing aids, which are designed to let those sounds pass through and then just boost the absent frequencies. So slightly different design, right? Mm-hmm. One feature that I want to be able to turn on and off quickly is the conversation booth feature, which lets me hear my wife when she's sitting across the table from me at a noisy restaurant. Mm-hmm. With the old hearing aids, that was a push button on and off.
Right.
And on the AirPods Pro 2, it's a little bit of digging around in settings. But there's the headphone accommodation tool that I recently added to the lock screen. Lets me get to that a lot quicker. So I'm essentially pleased now with what I've got.
Definitely. And to get into some geekery here with those, the AirPods do have several microphones. There's one kind of on the outer shell, and then there's actually one built into the stem that it's used kind of dual purpose. It's used for phone calls and FaceTime, and if you're recording with them, but it's also used when you actually turn on headphone accommodations. That microphone is used for the conversation boost, to cut out some of the low end to make it a little easier to hear people around you and directionally hear them. And for those who haven't messed around, like I have the shortcut in my control center for headphone accommodations. Even if you use a lot of like echolocation and stuff and you want to be able to enjoy your AirPods, you can really tweak the transparency mode to allow you to get more of that high end. Because I think by default, it makes everything a little bit muddy and quiet. So, it's cool that you're able to customize them. And now to the fact that you can import, audiograms and actually do a hearing test, a functional hearing test on your iPhone, and really effectively make them work as clinical hearing aids, at least here in the United States right now, is honestly pretty incredible. And, the fidelity, you get Apple's AAC compression, so you get, pretty close to lossless audio quality. I don't think you'll be able to notice the difference between a pair of wired earbuds and these nowadays. They've gotten so indistinguishable from each other.
It's quite remarkable. It's an amazing product for the price. I do understand that the hearing aid feature is available outside the U.S. now. I was talking with a blind friend in the UK who's using that feature. And you're right, headphone accommodations was in Control Center. I think I said the lock screen, so Control Center is where you add that.
Well, they are adding, you can customize the lock screen now, so you might actually be able to add it as a lock screen shortcut.
Maybe you can. I didn't try it, but yeah, I put it in Control Center right next to Focus and all of those other handy dandy things.
Yep, me too. Well, you've been definitely chomping at the bit for this section, and I'm getting pretty hungry, so I think we got to have a good old Sandwich of the Week. That was very quiet. I'm disappointed, but I'm definitely hungry too. So, well,
it was quiet, but my mouth is watering. Yeah.
So is mine. I've actually got a sandwich on the way, and it's one that I've had before on the show, but it's just one that I honestly swear by from my good old trusty Snarfs. It's the buffalo chicken sandwich because it's delicious. It's got, obviously chicken, Frank's buffalo sauce, blue cheese, lettuce, tomato, pickle. I think I don't actually know if it doesn't come with pickle. I add pickle because I love pickles, but that's my sandwich of the week. Paul, I'm sure you've probably got a better one than I do. But
well, we're both in Boulder County, and where is Snarfs? Is that a Colorado chain, or is it outside Colorado too?
I imagine it is, but I know they're around. I first started hearing about them in Boulder and Louisville, where I am.
Right, yeah. The old Audio Information Network location, there used to be a Snarfs kitty corner from the intersection.
Yep, there's one at the new one too. Right across the street.
Lucky you.
I know.
Right, good. Yeah, I love their Italian, which is great. But there are a couple that I'd like to mention. One is I just spent the weekend in Idaho Springs, Colorado, and right at the east end of town, as you're coming up I-70, first exit, there's a barbecue place called the Smokin' Yard. And you got to get their barbecued pork, pulled pork sandwich, and you got to smear some St. Louis sauce and some spicy sauce on it. And you got to put enough on it that it's running all over your fingers. And a side of coleslaw, it's just perfect.
Oh, my gosh.
And then I'll mention hamburgers count as sandwiches, I think.
Oh, yeah.
There's a place here in Erie, Colorado called the Rusty Melon that has a really wonderful burger and a large variety of burgers to choose from. But they do something quite interesting with their buns. They sort of like run a branding iron across the top to put the letters RM in there for Rusty Melon. And you can feel it with your finger. Which is really cool. And I have asked the waitress, could they do that in Braille? Give me a Braille letter R and a Braille M.
Well, they could.
Yeah, not yet. But she assures me they're working on it. So
well, I think either way, that's unique. And that sounds like a good hidden gem. Hence the point of this segment. And in fact, it's been a while since we've had a good hidden gem here. So thank you for that. And I want a pulled pork sandwich with dripping in hot sauce now. You can never go wrong with pulled pork. And Idaho Springs, there's so many good food spots up there.
Yeah.
You got to, and of course, when you're up there, at least in my opinion, you got to hit the hot springs at least once. They've kind of modernized those, and we've stretched the sandwich of the week segment before. I think once I did a taco, anything that is two pieces of some sort of breading with something in between, even a hot dog counts sandwich.
Exactly. Good.
Well, Paul, I'd always love to plug. This is always the fun time for plugs. So where can people find your speed solving book? And it's actually on a thing that we forgot to mention, Bookshare too. So yeah, where can people find your book?
Right. Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to mention this. I wrote this book for blind people, and I want you to have it in as many different ways as it's possible for you to get it. The book is called Solve It, the only speed solving guide for blind cubers. And you're going to be able to find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Smashwords, and if you go to my author website, pallmartz.com, you'll find a heading there with a buy link underneath it. And you can go to the book's companion website, which is tactilecuber.com, and you'll find a heading with a buy link underneath that. And yes, it is very recently become available on Bookshare. So if you're a Bookshare member, you can get access to that book totally for free. And I'd really like to get it transcribed into Braille and available through NLS Bard and the Colorado Talking Book Library and affiliate libraries. So if you can put in a request at the NLS Library of Congress NLS book suggestion form, book recommendation form is what you want to look for. I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. I will definitely do that. And I definitely do encourage listeners to do that as well, because it would be amazing to have that as an audio. So Goodness, Paul, we could continue talking and talking, but we've got stuff to do and things to people to see, place to go, all that good stuff. So thank you so much for joining me for 2 parts and for joining me for Blind Level Tech, talking tech and music and Rubik's Cubes. It has been honestly a lot of fun.
Evan, it's been a ton of fun, and you have some amazing guests on your show, and I wish you continued good fortune with your podcast, brother.
Well, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for listening to another episode of Blind Level Tech. If you've got feedback on this episode or any other episodes or any of our other Aftersight podcasts, definitely send us an email, feedback@aftersight.org, 720-712-8856 if you'd like to leave a voice message. We love your feedback and continue to use it to find new topics, new guests, and new ideas for shows. It is incredibly valuable. With that being said, I'd love to thank everybody for listening to another episode of Blind Level Tech. I'm your host, Evan Starnes, and I will catch you guys again next week.